Would you just look at that? It's all one color again. All right, everybody, we're back again. Wednesday, no, not Wednesday, Tuesday morning. It's about 10 o'clock. Came out, got the shop warming up. We're gonna see if we can get this. I figured I'd leave here about 1:30. So I think I can get this painted. So came out, got shop warming up, took the dog to the park for a little while, let her run. And now we're gonna get some sealer on. We're using Omni MP235 for the sealer today. That's a light gray. This calls for like I think a G6 undercoat. 235 is like a G4. It's a light gray. It'll be fine. So basically we're going to get a coat of sealer on, let that flash, and then we'll start putting some color on. So it's gonna get noisy though. So I got the camera as close as I want it to be as far as not getting paint all over it. So here we go. All right, everything is flashed off. I'm just going to hold the mic. I'm going to take it back off again. But we talked about 400 and 1,000 grit sandpaper on two different panels, and I said I'd explain why later. So now's the time to explain. 400 grit you can cover with base coat. It'll cover those scratches. So we are going to be basing all this. Obviously the sealer is taking care of that, but if we weren't sealing it, the base will cover 400 grit scratches. Back on this panel, we're not really putting any base on this panel. We're going to put a little here, not so much here, very little here, and none from here back, because that's where we're going to do our blend for our color. So this is just going to be clear coat. If we just clear over 400 grit scratches, you're probably going to see them. So the rule is, if you're putting base on it, 400 or 600, you can probably get with 800 if you want. I use 400, it's just the way it is. If you're going to blend panel or re-clear it, then it's 1,000 grit. What I did is this was 1,000 grit wet sand, sand it down until it's smooth, all the sheen is off of it, and then I take a gray Scotch-Brite with a couple of drops of Dawn dish soap. A lot of people frown on that, whatever, I've been doing it for years. And I scrub all the nicks and the crevices and all that and get all the sheen off of all those little areas. Again, so the clear doesn't fall off later on in life. So what we're going to do at this point, you notice when I sprayed this line of sealer, I held the gun at an angle so the overspray was blowing that way and not blowing back over the panel. If it does, simply just take 1,000 grit after it's all flashed off, 20 minutes, take some 1,000 grit and just clean it up. Doesn't hurt anything, I've been doing it. So at this point, before we start putting our base on the front, I'm actually going to start prepping for my blend back here. So what I have in the gun mixed up right now is what they call Deltron DBC 500. It comes in a quart can, lasts a long time. You only use a little bit. What it is, it's a clear base coat. It has no color, no pigment, no nothing. It's literally clear. What that's going to do is fill in these very fine 1,000 grit scratches. You can't see in the camera, but I can see right here circles from the Scotch-Brite, because when I sand circular. Just the way I do it. So we're going to put 2 coats of DBC 500 on. So while that's flashing, we come up here and start our color. And then when we bring that back over here, we don't have to worry about seeing these scratches later on. DBC 500 is probably not that important to use on this color, because this color has a lot of pearls in it. Not really any metallic. This is a pearl color. Pearl, changes colors and the angle and sun, stuff like that. Metallics are sparkly, fish and boat, you know what metallics are. If this was a silver or a gray, DBC 500 is very important. What'll happen if you don't use the DBC 500, when you start bringing your blend back and then dust this back, the metallics that are just floating in the air will land and highlight all these 1,000 grit scratches, and you will see them plain as day when it's in the sun. they look terrible. This is what I learned about DBC 500 a long time ago. I was trying to get around that, and that's where I found this product. So we're going to get 2 coats of DBC 500 put on. We'll bring that DBC 500 over this blend line where the sealer comes back at. That'll help, because there's a texture here right now because it's dry. So that DBC 500 will help drown that and smooth that transition out. Because again, you will see that when the truck is done. So if you have a rough line right here, just take some 1000 grit wet sand, a little water, just take it off, be done with it. This one actually turned out good, but I know the hood's a little dry, so we'll get into that as we go here. So I'm going to, we're just going to get going. I don't know, my phone just popped up and said I was going to win something for free. No idea what that is. Anyways, so that's 1 coat of DBC 500 on each panel, and then I had a little more left in the gun, so 2 coats over the transition from the sealer to the base. And you can see how much shinier that is now. It's not clear coat, it's just base coat. But now that's going to drown all those 1000 grit scratches. We could clear right over that, and that panel would be perfect, ready to go. So that's where we're going to do our blend for our color. So I'm going to go dump this DBC 500 out. Then I got some base mixed up, and we'll get 2 coats of base put on here, and then we'll... Okay, so 2 coats of base, and yes, I changed my shirt. The other shirt was too short, and let's face, we're trying to keep this PG here. So, if you're noticing this color doesn't match, yes, you are correct. It is not actually the color for the truck. Paint is expensive to buy. My door just blew open for no reason. I'll keep talking. Paint is expensive to buy, and it's almost just as expensive to get rid of old paint. So, to combat that, usually I stick with the same vehicles. I do a lot of Nissans and a lot of Subarus and use the same colors over and over again. This here, if I'm going to have leftover paint on the shelf, I'd rather have the hot pepper red because my daughter's going to keep this truck. Technically, she says forever. We'll see about that, but wouldn't surprise me if she did. This here is laser red. It's, you know, a close shade is what I would call it. This is off a 96 Mustang Cobra. 96 or 98? Mustang Cobra that I did a couple years ago, so it's been on the shelf. That car is, I know, has been totaled, and I know exactly where the car is sitting at, so that car is not coming back. So we're going to basically use that color to get the Bronco going, that shade, which means less hot pepper that I need to put on it, which means I get to keep a little extra hot pepper if needed for touch-ups. So that's why 2 coats of laser red. I do this a lot. I go through the paint cabinet and find a shade that's close, get it going with that. That way I get rid of the old paint and keep a little extra of the new paint. So now I got hot pepper red mixed up. I tacked it off again, tacked between every coats. It's been probably about 25 minutes. So we're going to, we'll get 2 coats of hot pepper put on and see how we're looking from there. All right, so we got about 3 more coats on the hood, 2 on the fenders and the door. And I want to show you where I'm at right now and what I don't like. So when we when we brought that, can I get the camera back here? When we brought that sealer back, I can you see that line right there? That's the edge of the sealer. I got like 5 coats on that right now. And I can still see it, and I don't like it. So, like I said, we're going to get a little 1000 grit out, a little wet sand. Mostly what that is it's the texture on the edge of the blend. Not really the blend, but the edge of the sealer. And it's reflecting the light differently. So we're just going to run over that area. It's been flashed off for probably 20 minutes now. So other than that, I don't see anything I don't like. Right now is the time to fix anything. Until you put the clear on, you can work with this paint. You can wet sand stuff out. You can, if you got a nick, a rock chip that you missed, you can literally take a little glaze, mix it up, put it on there, sand it out with some 400, and then just hammer some base back on it again. You can wet sand the entire thing down. If the texture is too rough, let's say it's August and 98 degrees outside and 70,000 degrees of percent of humidity, and it lays down really rough, take some 1000 grit, sand it back out, rebase it. It'll look a lot better after the clear is on then. So yeah, we're just gonna fix it. Here we go. So again, this is just 1000 grit. We're not gonna get aggressive. We're not gonna use a ton of water because we don't want water getting everywhere. And if you start sanding and it feels like gummy, just stop. Stop and let it, it's just not flashed off enough yet. Give it another 10 minutes, come back and check it. So just a little bit of water, just gonna work that right across that seam. And I can feel it under my paper. We don't really want to break through anything. If we do, we do. Not a big deal. Just base it. Get in here just a little bit. Should be about it. Just dry it off. Look for any water spots anywhere. See, I got some splashed up around here on the fender. Get that off of there. Make sure your hands are clean. If you just finished Burger King, wash your hands. Because you don't want grease and oil on top of this from your hands. Just a little water drip right in there. Okay, let me go hit the other side quick. We just knock that ridge off there, and we're just gonna basically we're gonna keep hammering base on there until that disappears. If it takes 8 coats, it takes 8 coats. It's just the way it is. If you can see it now, you're really gonna see it when you clear it. Like I said, you can fix anything you want up until you put the clear on. Once the clear starts, then you can't even stop. If you put on, let's say you get 1 coat of clear on and you have a disaster somewhere, you can't just stop. You got to put the second coat on. If you put 1 coat on, then try to come back at it, and fix it, then paint it. It might react with that thin coat of clear and make even a bigger mess. So, got to put at least 2 coats clear on. When I started, the center of the hood felt dry from the sealer just because I'm reaching out so far. And I was debating on fixing that, but as I've got the base on there, it's a lot better. And again, all I would have done was just take 1000 grit, get up there, sand it out. Nothing major, just a quick once over, and then dry it off. It's not what the manufacturer is going to tell you, I get it. But this is the way I do things. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I don't care. This is the way I do it. So now we got enough base on the truck itself as far as the fender and the hood. We're basically just going to concentrate on our blend areas now, which is just this area right here coming back. Yeah. Can't really see it from that angle, but you can just see that firm line of the sealer right there. So All right, so we're all done basing. Everything's ready. I'll show you our blend out here. So now you can see for the most part that you can't see that sealer line anymore. And as far as the blend, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't see any major color change. The sheen is different, so you got to kind of avoid that. You really got to try to concentrate just on the color and the pigment and see if there's anything obvious that you see. I don't see anything, and if there is, there's not a lot I can do about it anyways. You know, if the color's off, the color's off. We did a spray out. The spray out was, if anything, a touch oranger. I mean, I wouldn't mind it being a little redder, but I feel it's plenty close enough to blend out. These colors are never a perfect match, so yeah, I'm happy with everything. I don't see anything major as far as dust or chunks of dirt anywhere. I do have a fly that is flying around the paint booth, of course. They always show up when it's time to clear. So I got to combat him. And the way I do that is actually I shut all the lights off, and then I open the blinds on the front door so the sun can come in, and they go right to that window every time. And you just smash them. And I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to change out one of my filters in the prep station. They must be getting pretty plugged up. It's not moving air as well as I like. So we're going to pull that apart and get that done quick before this flashes off, and then we'll get to clearing. All right, so we're going to pull this panel off here. We're going to change out. I wish I would have realized it was time to change it before I started this morning, but I'd rather not do this right before it clears. So we're going to try to do it without making a big dusty mess. The good thing is I got the truck in here backwards, so it's the dust will be back here and it'll draw through. So what we have here is so these are all pre-filters right here, huge pre-filters, like over 3 foot by 3 foot. 3 of those draws the air in, then it runs through these bag filters. When the fans are on, it pulls these bag filters up, and what that does is it filters all the paint out of the exhaust before it heads out the back of the building, or depending which way you flip the switch here. So there's a diverter up here, and you might see me flipping that switch a lot. So basically, when you flip the switch one way, the diverter opens, draws the air in, up through the filters, takes out the back of the building. And then after you get all basically the stink out of here, and the air is clear, then I flip the switch back, closes the diverter, and it takes the air in, filters it again, takes it up to the top of the ceiling, and there's 4 more filters across the ceiling, and then the air drops back down into the booth. So it's basically just circulating the air like this. You always want air movement when you're painting. You have to have air movement, especially during clear coat. It'll make an absolute disaster. So these are, like I said, bag filters. There's my trailer. Anyways, there's 3 of them in here. I only replace one at a time because I'm actually trying to restrict the airflow. I don't want to move as much air as this thing can move, simply because it's hard to keep. Summertime you're fine, but in the winter it's hard to keep the shop warm when you're dumping all the air outside. That's why I prefer this thing. So I had my paint booth for 7 or 8 years, and I found that this actually works nicer because you can divert the airflow in and out. The paint booth, you turn it on, it just dumps 36,000 cubic feet of air per minute out the back of the building. When it's 0 degrees outside, that is hard to overcome, that amount of heat loss. So what I do is this one and this one. So this is the latest, newest one. This is the dirtiest one over here. So we're going to replace that one this week. These don't last long either. So you can see the amount of buildup in there. So I'm going to carefully take this outside. So like I said, in the wintertime, it's hard to recover the heat loss. It can't get cold in here. I mean, anything below 65, you're really pressing your luck. The rule of thumb is, as I was told by my old paint rep, if it ain't 70, you ain't painting. And that's true. They make reducers that you can use, like 860 and 870. We don't use any of them. I spray 885, Deltron 885 reducer, my every paint job. I don't care what time of year it is. And again, that came from my paint rep. He told me that that's what I'm going to do. Since he's the rep, he knows best. So, and I agree. The different temperatures in reducer control how fast the paint dries. So like 860 is going to allow it to dry slower, evaporate slower, or no, faster. 885 is going to slow it down. Gives it more time to flow. Flow is smoothness, basically. All right, it wasn't so bad. So now when this turns on, I'm not going to turn it on. It's extremely loud, and I don't want dust flying everywhere. I'm trying to keep this as clean as can be. But for the base coat, it's not super big deal to have super good airflow. It's always desirable, but with clear coat, you have to have airflow constantly. You can't shut your fan on and off. Like when we start clearing today, I'm not going to shut the fan off to talk. We're just going to go. Okay. Cycle that through, let the dust kind of catch up, and we'll get back to it. Well, now that we got the filter changed out, the booth is vented, everything is ready to go. I did wet down the floor behind me, just to try to control some dust. We got clear mixed up in the gun, in the clear gun. I do run two guns. I run a base gun and a clear gun. I will put clear in my base gun, but I never put base in the clear gun. Only clear coat goes in that gun. That is simply so you don't have mixing of metallics getting hidden somewhere in the gun that you didn't get cleaned out, and it comes out in your clear coat on a white car or something. Only clear. They're both Zeta 5000s. I've had them quite a few years. They both work good. The clear coat gun is a reduced pressure gun. The sales pitch behind that is that it's supposed to use less material but take longer, I think is how they sold that to me. I don't believe it at all. I actually think my base gun actually clears better than the reduced pressure gun, but I own them. They're mine and they're expensive, so I deal with it. So we're all tacked off. We're going to turn the booth on. 2 coats of clear. You put your first coat on like you want your last coat to look. You don't want any dry spots. And I am going to be using my 3M full face respirator for clear, because clear coat is attracted to moisture, which is your eyeballs, and it burns like mad. Downfall of that is I can't wear my glasses underneath of this, so it's you're kind of guessing what you're doing because you're blind without your glasses, but whatever. I better take my mic off. So yeah, we're going to turn everything on, so it's going to get noisy. The fan's not going to shut off. It'll run the entire time, so we're going to do what we can here. All right, we're back. Coat 1 is done. We mixed up a fresh cup of clear in the gun. Basically, it's been 15 minutes. My rule is if you can drag your finger, so this is where we started started clearing on this panel, and this is where we're going to start again. So if you can come in and drag your finger across the paper without it sticking to you, then you're ready to go. So here's so here we go. We're wrapped up with third coat of clear. It's flashed off. It's dry to the touch, meaning I can slightly drag my finger across it. It doesn't stick, but no, you cannot touch it. It will leave fingerprints. The booth is off, so basically at this point I just open the sides up. I got this fan running back here, and then the ceiling fans are running in the shop, plus the blowers running on the furnace, so that'll circulate air plenty to let this dry. So at this point we are done with this part of it for the next. We won't unmask this till tomorrow. I know you want to see it all done. I get in a hurry, but do not unmask it. Just let it sit overnight and then come back and unmask it. It's just too easy to screw things up when you get in a hurry and unmask it because you want to see it unmasked. Just leave it be. It'll look the same as it does right here. All right, so we're back out in the shop here. Like I said, we got everything painted yesterday. Cameron got home last night, or we both got home, went and got the wheels and tires done. We got home probably about 7 o'clock. I grabbed a beer. She wanted to unmask it. So I said, as long as you're careful, don't touch the paint. She did a great job, didn't touch anything. Everything looks good. I'm really happy with the color. I mean, I can't see any sign of this thing not looking good out in the sun. And I'm actually kind of anxious to see it out in the sun, but we'll get there when we get there.